Hey guys, what's going on? It's your big dreamer and doer, G Dinero, coming to you today with another TA Tuesday. This time it's October the 7th, 2025, and Bitcoin is up, MicroStrategy is up, even Solana and Tesla are also up all on the week. But first, remember, none of this is tax, financial, legal, investment advice. It's your buddy G Dinero helping you increase your financial literacy to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. And finally, a special thank you to Rusted Woods 100. Rusty said, when I watch your videos, I follow along in TradingView with your examples, taking action and doing the technical analysis as you talk about it really teaches me even further. It's 5 a.m. here in the Midwest. I can't sleep, and I wake up to nice green candles in your education. So super cool, Rusty. Thank you. Thank you for the super thanks also. And also Mama Black 7, she said, another great video. Love all the TA, pair trades. Husband walked by listening to the STRC part, and he said, hey, we should get some. And she said, it's already done thanks to Gary. So super cool to hear that. Thanks for taking the options course, Mama Black. And yep, going to be putting out more and more options ideas in the future. So stay tuned for those. So thanks for tuning in, both of you. And thank you for always commenting on the videos every single week. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the charts. You know, as always, we're going to start with the Bitcoin TABI model. The TABI model remains yellow. Excuse me. Ever since the background information, the data that's coming in, the data feed was changed a couple weeks ago by Invest Answers. We went from light orange back to yellow. Yellow is considered neutral, even with us breaking a new all-time high, right? So we've broken a new all-time high just since last week when you and I were on here together. The short-term holder cost basis, this comes from James check on chain, that and the true market mean. You notice I haven't updated them for 2 days, so it's probably closer to 113,000 right now, a little bit closer than 112,857. Same thing here, the true market mean. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't break 80,000. I just didn't have time to update the two of those before making the video this morning, but 113.80. Pretty much, in that vicinity, well above the 50, the 100 and 200 day moving averages. The Meyer multiple is starting to bounce off of 1 a little bit, making its way up to almost 1.5. You'll notice the MVRVZ also jumped from 2, popping up to about 2.45 right now. And last but not least, a little bit of fluctuation now in the historical volatility, getting up to 40 again after being down in the toilet for the last few weeks. So starting to get a little bit of volatility back in Bitcoin on the TABI model. Here it is, absolutely gorgeous on the daily chart. You notice we bounced off the bottom of this linear regression channel just about perfectly right here. Spiked up, made a new all-time high. That new all-time high is 126,296, and we just did that yesterday. I forgot to move this line over. That line needs to get moved over 1 click to right there. So we just made the new all-time high yesterday at 126,296. We are slightly mean reverted to the upside. RSI is back above 70. Remember, Bitcoin likes to live in a range that's slightly higher than the norm. If the norm is 30 to 70 on RSI, Bitcoin likes to live in that 35 to 75 range. Historically, it was 40 to 80, but that's kind of gotten a little less volatile over the years. But we are back above the midpoint of this linear regression channel. There's clear skies ahead. We're in what's called price discovery mode, so really no resistance to the upside. Down to the downside, support now is that 117, 118. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't go back and retest that before going higher. Here we are on the 4-hour chart. On the 4-hour chart, you can see that big block of volume. In fact, if I get rid of some of the really older data, what you're going to notice is that's the point of control. The point of control is around 118,000 plus or minus a couple $100 on the chart here. We used that as support back here in July. Support again here in August, broke below it, and it became resistance in late August and resistance into September. Right now, we're back above it, back above that 118, 117.5, testing the new all-time highs. Ironically, made it perfectly to the cup and handle weekly target that we've had on here. So where did that come from? if you look real carefully here, you can see there is a cup right here and a handle right there. So that's the cup. I'm kind of going to draw it in really dark. And there's the handle. And so it's the distance from the bottom of the cup to the top of the cup. That distance is how far we would break out to the upside, and we just achieved that target now. That's been building for the last 4 years. That cup, it's just this massive cup and handle formation that's been building for the last couple of years, 4 years. Ironically, we're starting to see a little bit of what's called a bearish divergence right now. So by that, I mean, notice that RSI is going down, the mean reversion is going down, and at the same time, the price is going up. Usually that points to a sell-off and a reset of the of what we would call the RSI and the mean reversion here. So that could potentially happen. What are the odds that I assign to it? I mean, I don't know. It's probably 50-50, but it's not something that I would lose sleep over. Again, it would not be unusual to come back and retest this zone that we were in before. What was the resistance zone? This I need to change. That's now would be our support zone, and this would now be previous support. New resistance is basically price discovery up to the upside. So lots of good things to think about with Bitcoin right now. You know what I skipped over was this. The liquidity chart peaked on September 16th. We came back down and retested the previous high, and now we're retesting it again right now. So looks to me like there's, the liquidity is kind of on pause right now, at least per that metric. Going over to the Solana daily chart, if we look on the Solana daily chart, been in a structural uptrend now since June 22nd. That means Solana outperforming Bitcoin. But with Bitcoin's most recent outperformance, it caused this to come back down again. That's why we came back down and retested this previous support zone. And we're kind of starting to consolidate and level off at that level that I just drew a line across. What is that? 00185. Remember I said I was a seller selling a little bit, like 1%, 2% of my Solana into Bitcoin once we got up above 0.002. Why? Because I was a buyer of Solana with my Bitcoin when we were down here in the toilet. In fact, most of mine was at 00140015, which is a little bit higher. I didn't nail the absolute bottom. But again, it just shows that it's not crucially important. Even riding it from 0.0015 up to 0.002, that is essentially a 30% move right there. You'd end up with 30% more of whichever one you're trying to build. In my case, it's Bitcoin is my store of value. So if I took Bitcoin here and went into Solana, or even if I did it here, and then up here went with Solana back into Bitcoin, I'd have 30% more Bitcoin than what I started with. Pretty cool how pair trading works. Moving over to the Solana, just Solana by itself chart. In the daily, we've been in a structural uptrend ever since April the 7th. And you'll notice we're ping-ponging back and forth between these current support and resistance zones. Support goes down to about 210. Resistance starts at 235, let's say, and goes up here to 245. That's that current, the two current zones we're dealing with. You can see that this current support zone really goes down even just a little bit further to about where these peaks were before. So if I wanted to be super technical about this, I'd come down to about right there and call that the current support zone. So what does that mean if you're looking to be a buyer of Solana? Well, you would be a buyer. And again, did that update? Yes, that updated. Should go down 211. It needs to go just a little bit lower than that. What was it on the daily? 205 really is about where that needs to come down to. So if I take this and I move this down to 205, there we go. That's pretty much close enough. That is the zone. Okay, so that zone right there And you can see the point of control over the last month and a half is right here at about 200, 204. So anything down there, 204, 205 would be a steal right now. That's where I entered into a perp long. I exited the perp long as soon as we hit this resistance zone. I think I got out at 234 and change. It was a nice juicy one, made about 60 or 70% based on the amount of leverage and the amount of money I put into the trade. So 60 or 70% in a week, I'll take it all day, every day. I'm not currently in a perp trade right now. Why? Because we're pretty much chopping sideways. Notice how it is consolidating. It's just going sideways. We're not mean reverted to the downside like we were before. We're not really that mean reverted to the upside, slightly. So if anything, I would expect it to go down just a little bit. I tend to play the Solana one direction. I leverage it long, and then at the tops, I sell it straight back into USDC. So I have USDC to re-enter the trade at those critical points where I think the re-entries are. Right now, I'd say anything around 215 down to 205 to 215, I'd be looking at, as long as we're mean reverted to the downside, as long as RSI is below 50, down there near 30 or 40, I'd be looking to go leveraged long again. But I'd be using small amounts of leverage just because it's not super oversold right now. Ethereum has made almost a quadruple top now. 1, 2, 3, fourth time. We're now making another run at this $5,000 level. There are a lot of skeptics that believe that may be it, and it's not going to go any further than that. Others would say no, with the ETFs and everything else and staking, it could go much higher than that. Again, I don't follow Ethereum enough myself, but it is overheated on mean reversion. It's very overheated on RSI. I mean, especially after this massive move from 38.25 all the way back up to 47.50. That's a 1,000-point move, or about a 25% move in a very short period of time, in just like a week and a half. So went from being significantly oversold to being overbought right here. And the trend is still up, so I don't know that I'd be looking to exit this, but anywhere between now and 5,000, I would say it's probably going to top out pretty soon. And there is even a little bit of a bearish divergence forming where the RSI and the mean reversion are going down while the price is still going up. So just be careful. Maybe a little bit of a sell-off coming on Ethereum. Just a quick correction, in which case you'd love to take your profits before that correction happens. Where's the support to the downside? A little bit of support here at 4,600. More down here at 4,470. Point of control is down here at 4,300. So that should act as your floor, barring any of these, quick wicks down like you saw here. MicroStrategy. Here we go. MicroStrategy starting to take off again, right? Here it is on the daily. We bottomed down here at 292 and then pumped straight up to 365. That's a nice little move right there. If we wanted to put a quantity on that, we could do that with the date and price range. We could go from here to here, and that's like a 25% move. 25% move in 7 bars or 11 days, right? 11 days, because that's only a 7 trading days across 11 days. Definitely a sweet move though. Up where we started to run into resistance, starting here at 365 or so, and that's going to extend all the way up to 410. Let's say 365 to 410, this big block of volume that we've got to work through. If I zoom out, you'll see it a little bit more pronounced. Give it a second to reset here, the VRVP. Or maybe it's not going to reset. It's thinking. I see it thinking over here. We're going to force it real quick. We're going to do what I call command reset. There we go. And you can see what I was talking about right here. See this big block of volume starting at around 367 going up to about 405, 410. That's going to be a chunk to work through. We got to get through the 100-day moving average, which is here at about 375. We are above the 100 and the 50, which are sitting at 350. You guys know I'm not a huge, proponent of the the death cross, which is happening here, a green going down through the yellow, that's the 50 going down through the 200. That would be a death cross. A lot of times those are lagging indicators. The damage has already been done. So to take action on a death cross now, you should have taken the action before and sold off when all the selling signals were back up over here. We had sell signals galore. Now we've bottomed and we're starting to get buying signals, and it's going to start taking off again. So what will likely happen is this 50 will cross down through the 200 and then cross right back up through it again. That's a bullish cross, right? They call that a bull cross. They call this one like the death cross right here. I don't put a lot of faith in them, just saying. But teaching you along the way just so you kind of know and you can determine for yourself if that's important. On the daily chart, notice that we are in the lower 1/3 of all the confluence clouds. Here's 1, 2, 3 zones. We're in the lower 1/3 of the confluence cloud. We came off of a giant green mean reversion dot, close to 1 standard deviation below the norm. The MNAV bottomed out, like atrociously bottomed out here at 1.19 on the undiluted and 1.33 on the fully diluted. We're back up off the bottom a little bit, but not by much right now. So it still has room to run. And again, resistance to the upside, 365 to 410. Support, we're sitting on it. It's this 340 level that you see right here where this red line is, 335 to 340. That is the support level right now. That's just where so much volume has transpired that if we dip below it, we get right back up above it. So 340 to 350 support to the downside. On the 4-hour chart, you can see we are significantly overheated to the upside, taking a breather, coming back down into this current support zone. And again, support would be down to like 335. Resistance is going to start here at 375 with this 100-day moving average and extend all the way through this zone until we get up to about 410 or so. What we would like to see is a breakout above this high that we had before. That high was at about 415 right there. So if we get back up, even if we pull back and then go back up and pull back, we need to break through that 415 level, and we're off to the races at that point. So call it 415, 420 on the upside for MicroStrategy. Tesla gapped up. I took some of the support and resistance zones off because it made it hard to see on here. But you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 gap ups. It looks like this last one filled. It sure enough did. So I can take this one off right now. We'll go ahead and delete that. Why so? Because this candle right here wicked all the way down through it. So that invalidated. I'll put it back on. This was a gap up from here up to here, but then these candles traded down through the gap, So that's what invalidated this gap. And now we only have this gap up that could fill this one. A lot of it's riding on today. There is the Model 2 or the less expensive Model Y or whatever you want to call it. There's a big launch today with Tesla that's been hyped galore. What are we starting to see on the chart? We're seeing, again, a bearish divergence. The price has gone up while the power of the move has started to go down. It's a little bit hard to see if you don't blow these up, but if you blow it up, you can see that RSI is clearly going down and to the right. This mean reversion, clearly we were higher here than we are now, despite the price being a little bit higher. So it's subtle, but it's starting to consolidate at this 460 level, 450, 460. We've got earnings coming up. People think that earnings could go either way, right? And if you look back, we did that last week. We look back at historical earnings, and some have been good and some have been bad. And on good earnings, sometimes the stock is sold off afterwards. And on bad earnings, sometimes the stock has skyrocketed afterwards. So it really is a bit of a crapshoot, excuse the language, at the end of the day with Tesla. Here we go. Here's the current resistance zone. I left that on here. I did not put the support zones on here, but there is a zone down here at about 360, right? It's this gap that I anticipate could fill It may not. Guys, we may just keep going up and to the right, right? We may come out of this this earnings call and it skyrockets. But to me, and we've almost completely reset on the mean reversion. We were 3 standard deviations to the upside, and we're back down to pretty much neutral. Not quite, still a little bit overheated, but 0.3 is nothing compared to 3, right? So we've almost reset there. We've actually almost reset the RSI, but you can see it more plainly here. You can see this divergence that I was talking about. If I just even go like this and go down across to the right, if I do the same thing here and I go down and I link some of these, and then from that same point, the price has basically still been climbing up. And if you could even slide that down and kind of go in the middle of all that if you wanted to, but regardless, it's still going up and to the right. So that in and of itself is what's called a bearish divergence. Doesn't always sell off afterwards, but strong case to be made to fill in where you see these gaps over here in the volume chart. And a retest of the 61.8% fib level, also possible. Could we retest all the way down here to what was the previous support and resistance level? That's also possible. Why? Because we haven't retested it yet. If we look back over time, it was resistance back here, became support for a little while until it became resistance again, and it's been resistance ever since February. We never retested it from the upside. It's not a guarantee, but more often than not, an asset will retest the previous level of support and resistance from the upside. So that's what I see going on with Tesla. To the upside, the previous all-time high, so 488 to 500, that's your upside. And to the downside, we could go down even as far as 360. Likelihood of that is lower than going back down and retesting, let's say, 380 to 400. I think the likelihood of that is at least 50%, in my opinion. I think it's personally higher, but I don't want to steer anybody awry. Nvidia, since last week, made a new all-time high. You'll notice that we did hit on a Thursday of last week. We hit $191.05 with Nvidia. Guys, you could have bought it for $86 and now it's going for $190. So over 100-point move just since April. So Nvidia is absolutely on fire. We're in that price discovery mode. It seems like the resistance zone is 185 to 190, basically where we are right now, because it's having trouble breaking through that level. But that's okay. I mean, then support to the downside is down to 170, maybe even a wick down to 165 is possible. But I see right now 170 is where I would add maybe a few shares if I was light Nvidia and I was bullish on it over the long haul. I know there's $230 to $250 price targets on it out 1 year. And then over here on the 4-hour chart, it's a little bit more clean to see. You can see where we ping-ponged between this previous support level and what was resistance. Now we're starting to turn that resistance level into support. And that's what I was talking about with the Tesla chart just a second ago too, where you turn a previous area of resistance. This was resistance in July, August, and September. And now in October, we're starting to turn it into support. And we have a new area, a new zone of resistance above that we've got to break through. And you'll note that the assets tend to ping pong back and forth between those two at the end of the day. The next one that I look at regularly is the MicroStrategy Tesla pair. This pair was the one where I admitted that I was wrong. I thought that at a 1-to-1 ratio, things would flip. In fact, we started to right here, and then we just continued down. We started to flip right here, and we continued down. We started to flip, and do we continue down, or do we start to make a structural uptrend? So I have a circle on here where it looks like it was the bottom of this pair. Ironically, that bottom of the pair is at the exact same price level it was on December 31st, 2024. So 1 year later, we've gone all the way up to 1.5 and all the way back down to 0.7. And again, I made a whole video about that. I'll go ahead and link to it here so that I don't have to go into it all over again. Had you at this absolute bottom at 0.69-ish gone from Tesla back into MicroStrategy, from Tesla back into MicroStrategy, then you could have sold your MicroStrategy back into Tesla for 20% more Tesla in just a little over a week, 8 days, 24 bars, 8 days, a little over a week, going from the bottom to the top. Now, did I do that? No, I did swap some of my Tesla into MicroStrategy. In fact, I had done it along the way here. I'm expecting this with a powerful move of Bitcoin and MicroStrategy to make its way back up to, let's say, the 400 to 450 range, while Tesla stays in that 450 range. That would bring us back to a 1-to-1 ratio. That's where I'd look at going for some more MicroStrategy back into Tesla again, is at that 1-to-1 ratio. Yes, I know I went the other way here. Like I said, I thought that was the bottom. This appears to be the bottom. So if we trickle back up to the 1.1, maybe even 1.2 range, that's where I'll start taking a little bit of profit from MicroStrategy into Tesla for a long hold on Tesla, right? That's going to be a multi-year hold. MicroStrategy is still a multi-year hold for me, with at least half of my bag, if not 2/3 of my bag. People ask why, because I can sit there and sell cover calls on it till the cows come home. And when we get to a point where I think it's really top heavy, in groups of 100 shares, I'll turn around and do synthetic shorts. Synthetic shorts is selling the call and buying the put. That way you're buying downside protection for the time frame that you think that it could pull back. So here's the MicroStrategy IBIT pair. That's another one that I've been showing on here pretty regularly. It's just kind of here, sitting here on 5, right? That means 5 shares of IBIT for every 1 share of MicroStrategy. IBIT and Bitcoin had a super powerful move yesterday, whereas MicroStrategy was mediocrely up, if that's a word, mediocrely. And even in the cloud, if you look at it from a cloud standpoint, it was back near the top of the cloud instead of being out the bottom of the cloud. When you're out the bottom of the cloud, giant green mean reversion dots, that's the perfect time to go from IBIT into MicroStrategy. Conversely, when it goes out the top of the cloud, like you see here, or when there's giant red mean reversion dots, that's the perfect time to go from MicroStrategy back into IBIT. A even better example of it would be back here, because we're out the top of the Confluence cloud. And additionally, I'm trying to show it over here, we are out of the ARB cloud. At the same time, we were out of the top of the Confluence cloud. So just gives you more and more agreement amongst the different models when it's all said and done. Because I had talked some about like gold and Bitcoin, I think here's the Bitcoin gold chart. I made a whole video about that. I'll go ahead and link to that video right here. But I made a whole video about that. People have asked me, well, can you do the same thing with ETFs in a IRA? Yeah, absolutely. Here's gold IBIT. This is on a 4-hour chart. If I switch it over to like a 3-day chart, you can really kind of see it a little bit better. That the big swings in the change. Like if you just ride it out on a 2 or a 3-day chart and you look at when does it bottom, and I think I'd have to go to a 2-day for the mean reversion to start to show up. Let's see. Yeah, the mean reversion doesn't even want to show up even on that time frame, it looks like. Let's go to the daily. There it is. It's showing up on the daily. Just not enough data to look at it on a 2-day or a 3-day. But if you do that and then you wait for the trend to come in here, goodness gracious, this is go slow. Save and reload. Yep, let's save and reload and see if this thing done broke my TradingView. There we go. So when you're getting red mean reversion dots and all of a sudden the trend stops, boom, go from gold into IBIT. And then this is floating down. We've got a green dot here. The trend starts to go blue again. You can go from IBIT back into gold. That's actually a fake out, because then it continues down a little bit further. We get another green dot and we get a trend flip here. You go from IBIT into gold. When we get to the top, we've got red dots and the trend flipped right here. You go from gold back into IBIT. And along the way, those are winning trades. Those aren't as big of a winning trade as this one was, but there are flips along the way with that pair too. So again, if that doesn't make sense to you, go back and watch that video that I made for you guys just a little bit ago. Getting down to the wire here, we've got the rotation model, my rotation model with the settings that I have just signaled to go into Palantir. It said to sell Nvidia for Palantir, but I was already really, really heavy MicroStrategy. And MicroStrategy had that pump yesterday up to 360 or so. So I went ahead and got rid of some MicroStrategy shares in my IRA that I'm doing the rotation model in and moved them into Palantir. I wanted to keep the Nvidia that I had in there because that was all the Nvidia that I had. So I'd made that strategic move yesterday to take some profits at 360 right here on MicroStrategy, roll them into Palantir, and that's what the latest says my rotation model says I should be in. And finally, these guys, we actually have some movement on, as you can see, right? STRK bottomed out down here at around 88 and just spiked up to over 100. So getting very close to par value again. Remember, STRK, 8% yield, and has the convertibility with 10 shares of STRK into 1 share of MicroStrategy. So once you get above $1,000 a share, it might make sense to take your STRK, convert it into MicroStrategy, and then ride the MicroStrategy shares up, especially if MicroStrategy ends up splitting again down the road. STRF, on the other hand, that's the 10% preferred. It's been running around 110 to 112, and it shot back up to 116, 117. If you're in for trading these things and you don't want to just hang on to it for only the dividend, you might look at unloading some of your STRF and moving it into something else like STRC that is now maintaining very close to par value. Par value is 100. We did spike above that yesterday and then dropped right back below it again, and we're sitting here on 99. That's where I expect it to be, is between 99 and 101. People have been asking me for a while. You'll notice that it was below par, significantly below par when it launched and after the very first dividend. And then since then has started to level off, being between 97 and 100. That's where I expect STRC. They did increase the dividend. So now instead of a 10%, it is 10 and a quarter, 10.25. So instead of the dividend being 83.3 cents per share, it's now 85.4 cents per share per month. So every share of STRC you have, you're going to get 85.4 cents every month right now. That's what the current dividend is. All right, guys, if you want to see more content like this, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you see more videos like this, okay? And finally, throw a comment in there. I read every single comment. I actually try to respond to every single comment. So drop a comment in there. Tell me, what'd you like best? What did you learn? What would you like to see more of? You can also book a course with me or look to sign up for a new community at gdinerocoaching.com. The community is under works right now. As far as individual appointments, guys, I am full through the end of the year. I'm having a hip surgery a month from now, actually almost 4 weeks from today, and also taking some time off to celebrate my wife's birthday. And then we've got Thanksgiving and Christmas, all the holidays coming up. So right now, my individual appointments are just about full. I can't take on any more new clients, but you can book a course with me and learn TradingView and technical analysis like a ninja. You can be a master at trading options through my Understanding Options course. And I do provide support for each of those courses where you have the ability to ask me questions and I'm respond in a timely manner for you. And finally, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm G Dinero. I'm here to help you increase your financial literacy, to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. We'll see you next time. Take care.